Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Premier Preview. I am Cole Exner McHenry. Today I'm joined by a member of Third Impact named Insane. He has been competing in ESEA leagues for quite some time. I think most notably Season 34, where he was able to win at the very difficult season of Advanced with his team Third Impact. So impressive stuff being showcased from that roster, and I do kind of want to shout them out for being able to really overcome a whole lot of adversity. Starting off the season, they had a really rough season for their introduction into MDL. Insane as well. To kind of be able to rebuild, be able to avoid relegation is kind of why I wanted to highlight this roster, and even to kind of maintain a very positive attitude is something you're gonna see from this interview. So really impressive stuff from that roster. One of the reasons I'm really looking forward to it, seeing them in the next season of Premier. I'm really glad that they didn't get relegated, as I would worry what that would mean to the motivation of a couple of those players. So super excited to see them in the upcoming season. They're going to be playing with a roster of Dane Joris, Insane, Walker, Brett, and Grape. I believe in the interview I called Brett Hyper, as it's still his name on HLTV. It hasn't quite changed, but those two are kind of interchangeable. So Brett is Hyper, and Hyper is Brett, just for a little background in case you get confused later on in the video. They announced a coach in the form of Lucid, and Classy is their analyst, which is interesting because they are one of the only teams, I think, in MDL, at least in North America, that has analysts and utilizing that sort of role. So interesting stuff there, a little tidbit for you all. But yeah, most of all, I want to highlight this team because they have a really good attitude, at least Insane. He's been IGLing for quite some time, and a big shout out to him for sticking to the game. He actually ends the episode with quite an inspirational message. So really love to see that. Really love talking with people that are just highly motivated to play CS. It really inspires me, and it should and hopefully inspire you all to keep on grinding. So make sure you stay tuned till the end of the episode. I also want to add that I am a content creator for Third Impact, but I'm not really doing ratings in these, so doesn't really matter that much. I do want to shout out Third Impact though before the video starts. They're a really sick organization. They been helping me throughout my my content creating grind, so I want to go ahead and give them a shout out, as well as their sponsors. They're sponsored by Advanced GG and Vita Ramen. So big shout out to them. Thank you so much for always helping me out with the content creation and promoting me. So just wanted to disclose that. Again, not doing any ratings, so shouldn't play too much of a factor. There's no real conflict of interest, but throughout the video we kind of talk about the same things that we talked about with Wolfie, speaking on their past, last season of MDL, as it was called, talking about their struggles, kind of having to build a new roster, how they were able to overcome it and avoid relegation, and some really cool people in the scene that were able to kind of stick with them. Koalanoob, big shout out to him, as we'll learn later on in the video. We then later go on to talk about the next season, where they are kind of rebuilding their new roster with Brett, Dane, Insane, Walker, and Grape, and talking about the challenges of kind of rebuilding a roster in the off season. And of course we hit on the ESEA changes, which is obviously going to be one of my favorite things to do now, because it's very interesting to see what sort of players really focus on what sort of like aspects of the new changes. So for example, actually no, I'm not gonna spoil that, so you're just gonna have to wait and see what Insane's favorite part of season 36's changes and ESEA's changes as a whole are going to be. But with that being said, make sure you smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. I really appreciate all of the support that I've been getting on these videos, as well as my Dust 2 series, which should be coming back very soon. So we kind of took a break for the holidays, and hopefully we'll be getting back into things with that series as well coming up shortly. With that being said, I'll throw it over to the video. I'll introduce Insane, and I really appreciate you all watching. Subscribe, like, and a shout out to Third Impact. But I will see you in the next episode. Peace. Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Premier Preview. This time I am going to be interviewing Third Impact's Insane. He is a player for Third Impact. He was in MDL last season. He's actually the winner of Advance, I believe, season 34, if I'm remembering correctly. Rosters went through quite a bit of change over last season, but the big reason I kind of wanted to get him on the interview is because they're going through pretty good core change in your roster, and it would be interesting to hear a little bit more information on how that's been. But before we get into that, I do kind of want to ask a little bit about last season because of all of the roster changes that you all went through and such. So to start things off, after like a really rocky season, or not rocky season, I'll say rocky start to last season, what were sort of the changes that you put in place, and your kind of core of Dane, to kind of close out the season and avoid relegation?
So yeah, I'll start last season where we had the long tryouts in the preseason, and then
Mm-hmm.
we went in. We ended up getting Koalanoob and Fluky, and for like a week that was fine, but there were a lot of issues, at least with chemistry between Fluky and JoJo, as part of the main
Mm-hmm.
problem. But some of what Fluky was doing wasn't really working with the rest of us, and it was more of a problem of fitting in the team than himself individually. But anyway, that was the first decision we had to make, where we just decided to replace him. And then that opened up again more tryouts where we had to look for another fifth. And by that point of the season, it was a really awkward point. It was just a week
Yeah.
after the season started, looking for people to play MDL. People that actually qualified to play are either on teams or just sitting the season out for whatever reason, or they wouldn't want to join us
Mm-hmm.
because we're not good enough. So then we have to do more tryouts. We ended up settling on Eric, who is somebody I played with before. He's one of my friends, and he fit the team pretty well. And for a while, I was pretty confident in that roster. Once we ended up on Eric, or at least for like another week, we had a solid week of practice again. So it
Mm-hmm.
was me, Dane, Eric, JoJo, and Koala, and everything was working pretty well. Practice was going well, and there became a point where JoJo decided to start trying out for Incognito, which was Viz's team at the time. And so
Mm-hmm.
he was joining our old teammate Viz and his team. And the tryouts for him took about a week. So it was kind of a week where, after we had just gotten our new five, we didn't really have consistent practice because of the reasons that, like, we didn't have him for most days. Some days that he was trying out for them, we couldn't practice, so we just didn't have consistent practice. And then by the time JoJo was deciding that he may want to leave and join them, Koalanoob basically came to the realization that he had lost motivation to play CS, and a
Mm-hmm.
part of that decision came down to JoJo leaving. We got to a point where it was basically like, if JoJo decided to stay, then Koala would decide to stay. But if JoJo leaves, then Koala would go to Valorant. And so what ended up happening is, obviously JoJo left. Koala decided to go to Valorant, but he agreed to play out the season with no practice. So he would like play matches with us, try to keep our roster alive in the next season.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, he was focused on Valorant, and we
Yeah.
weren't practicing as a team. And at that point, the other problem was we had added Koala and Fluky to our roster at the very beginning after the season had already started, after roster lock. So that counted as two out of our four roster adds for the
Yeah.
season. So at that point, with JoJo leaving, we basically needed to get two new players, and we couldn't really. Okay, we also added Eric, so we only had one left. So after Eric, we had one roster move left, and we needed to replace two players in order to keep practicing. So as we needed to replace JoJo and Koala, which wasn't possible, and we didn't have anybody on our roster that could practice. So it was either Douglas or T Connors that were still on the roster, but neither of them could commit to a practice schedule. So we just decided that we had to just go into playing out the season, no practice, which was the first season I've actually ever done that. Even going back to open, every season I've played on, it's been practice every week, no matter what. And so that was really hard for me. And then with that roster, it actually kind of favored the situation we were in because we brought back T. Connors, who we played with before, and
Hmm.
he's a really good player with no practice because he's just so naturally talented and he has so much experience. And the same with Koala, who is a
Yeah.
very individually minded player. So our team basically at that point, when it was me, Dane, T. Connors, Koala, and Eric, Eric's a really like safe player. He's not really going to die a lot in bad positions. And then Koala has this whole style that he likes to play and opens up the round. So it was basically between me, Dane, Eric, and Tom. We kind of just played like normal Counter Strike and let Koala do his thing, and then we just played out the rounds behind him, and that worked enough for us to win enough games to keep the roster alive. And obviously, a lot of that credit goes to Koala. So big respect to him
Yeah.
for sticking with the team even after he decided to quit playing the game. He's a great guy, and obviously Valorant looks to be paying off for him so far. So I have no
Yeah.
problem with that.
Yeah. I mean, I do kind of want to touch on Koalanoob a little bit more because he nearly dropped like 90 ADR last season. Was that I mean, obviously he's got a lot of talent, like just like in his play style and aim and things like that. But were you all doing anything to really set him up to get those opening kills, or was it more of just like he was working on his own?
I'd like to think that it was built into the structure of the team where, to a degree, I at least knew how to call around what he wanted to do for the
Hmm.
most part. And so it means like when he goes for his crazy plays, if it's Mirage and he wants to jump through the top mid smoke and push into Con, then we have a round built around that to win the round after whatever he does.
Okay.
So he was kind of doing most of it himself, but he wasn't like it was in a way where we could win off of what he was doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, like a lot of it came down to just him being let off the leash. And Mirage is like his home territory, and for some reason, a lot of our matches toward the end were on Mirage,
Okay.
so that was another factor that helped us. But yeah, like he brought a really good energy too, having him being able to do whatever he wanted. He's a really positive guy, and so him like keeping us motivated, keeping us in a game, and then putting us on his shoulders to go for these crazy rounds that just give us so much momentum. That was obviously a real big reason why we were able to pull it out.
Okay. Yeah. I mean that kind of answers a lot about, especially towards the end with all of the Mirage maps that you played versus um, a couple of the other teams. But I do kind of want to move into the next season for you all because you are playing with quite a different core. I believe Dane is the only one that's carried over
Yep.
um, from the original like roster that I kind of knew from Advanced a while back. But you're now rebuilding with Walker, Grape, and Hyper. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And you've got a coach and an analyst. So my first question is, what are like the steps that you've been taking to kind of bring this new roster and kind of get them comfortable together before the season starts?
Well, to go back to tryouts for this season, it basically started with. Oh, it's on you. Okay. So it basically started with we were trying people out at the beginning, so it's just me and Dane. It's kind of a complicated situation where you have to try out three people at one time, so
Hmm.
you can never really focus on all your tryouts the same way, and so that's a really weird way to try people out. But in doing that for a couple weeks, we basically realized that Brett was a lot of what we were missing in our roster before, with Koala leaving and with Viz leaving before him. We kind of saw Brett as that equivalent player, as somebody who like is good at making plays, really vocal, and a pretty positive guy. And so right away we kind of decided that we wanted him in our final roster. But again, like starting with two players is hard to just bring somebody right into the team with so much uncertainty. So we basically try to keep playing with him a lot, and we looked for other tryouts. And it was kind of later on in our tryouts, like after a couple weeks, where Walker got brought into the picture. So he's somebody that Brett had played with before. And obviously, our options for oppers were either we bring JoJo back, we find somebody else, or I op. And so myself opping was not a great option. And
Hmm.
with JoJo having left before, it was kind of a weird situation. So we're basically waiting to see what we could get. And Walker was the first real option we had. And then playing with him, it kind of clicked immediately. And then obviously him having chemistry with Brett before helped a lot. And he's also a really positive guy. That's kind of a running theme with our tryouts for this season is we look to see who would be the best long term as members of a team. Because when things are rough, you obviously want teammates that are going to grind through it and stick together. And having a team that sticks together is like the biggest like factor for success, and that's something that we
Yeah.
obviously haven't had in a couple seasons. So we're trying to get that back. And so right away it was kind of we wanted Brett, we wanted Walker, and those were the first two pickups we had. And then like we still at that point when we ended up getting them, we knew that Grape was high on our list, and we basically had another week of tryouts where Grape was a weird option because he was considering switching to Valorant, and obviously he made that switch and then switched back right before we got him. So we basically were trying to get him, and then he ended up quitting the game, so we didn't have him as an option anymore,
Hmm.
and we didn't really know what we were going to do. And so at that point also it was like kind of awkward timing, like mid-December. I had a family vacation I had to go to for like 10 days. So we basically had to just cold stop our tryouts with four players. And then right when we came back, we kind of just immediately decided, okay, Grape wants to come back to CS. Let's just pick him up and just get this done. And we did. And that's where we are now. And also, I forgot to mention, basically, when we got Brett and Walker at the same time, we had been playing with Lucid as our coach since pretty much the whole time we were trying out Brett. And by that point, whether we got Walker and Brett, we just decided that Lucid would be the best option going forward. And he'd already put so much time into the team to help us with tryouts that it was
Hmm.
just kind of a natural decision.
Yeah. So
And then
you.
Classy,
Oh,
yeah, go
you go
ahead.
ahead. No, no, you go ahead.
Okay, so Classy, our analyst, was somebody that last season early on, when we were still going to practice, he basically just randomly messaged me on ESEA that he was interested in doing analyst work for a more experienced IGL.
Hmm.
And I just really liked his message because he's basically all about just wanting to learn and wanting to get better. He literally said in the message he doesn't want money. He just wants to do what he can to improve and learn.
Yeah.
And so I just brought him in and I just asked to see like his work and I liked what he sent me. And then I had him do a couple of like demo reviews for a team we were going to play in the upcoming week. And I liked what he did for that. And then basically at that point that we just got him is when our team kind of fell apart and we had to just like stop practicing.
Oh,
So we kind of had him on a back burner for all of last season. I just knew that if we could keep him for the next season and then rebuild and get a good roster, that he would be a great like addition to the team. And so right now I'm really confident with all the pieces we have. It's kind of all coming together.
yeah. So that was kind of a good segue into my next question because I believe Third Impact is the only team so far that's announced a analyst. So you kind of answered the question, but for the upcoming season, what are your real plans of utilizing Classy as the analyst, or
Yeah, so
however much you want to give
between
away?
between myself, our coach Lucid, and Classy, we kind of have three people to watch demos, to prepare stuff, to do that kind of work for our team. So between myself and Lucid, it's mostly about like the end game stuff, the team stuff focused on ourselves and improving as much as we can. And then Classy's kind of be the demo machine where his job is just to watch teams that we're playing and we're going to give him the stuff that we want him to do, the anti-stratting stuff, and then he's basically going to get information, watch demos, like take notes on it, send it back to me and Hunter, our coach, and then we're going to basically decide how best to use it. But yeah, that's basically what he's doing at least for now.
Okay, it's perfect. And for your Coach Lucid, what how is he going to be working with you and like calling and all of that? Is it going to be more of a, because I know you've got a lot of experience IGLing, but I'm not sure how much experience you have with coaches. I know that you had a coach for the last season of Advance, but what are the plans in utilizing the coach for next
Yeah,
season?
so his job is basically he's gonna just be my second brain. Like we're as a coach, he's more quiet in game, which is good because I'm a pretty vocal IGL. So if he was more of a vocal coach, we would kind of clash with each other.
Yeah.
But his job is basically to oversee practice, try to figure out better ways to practice and fix problems that he sees. He just takes really good notes during our scrims and obviously during our matches. And his job is just to make sure that whatever I'm missing, he picks up on and he goes over and he just brings a different perspective to the game. So I have my own way of thinking, and obviously that's not always going to be right or the best way. So he'll be able to kind of be a counterpoint to that. And then between the two of us, we'll hopefully find a better way to play the game, better approach, and find what works best for our team. So he's kind of just my counterpart to just make sure that I'm doing the right things, and he's just doing whatever he can to help us improve.
Yeah, perfect. I think I got the last question for you. So obviously I now know that you are practicing, but what does practice look like? Are you being able to find more scrims and stuff now that the season's getting a little bit closer?
Yeah, so what's happened now is kind of interesting. It's like all the teams that are still practicing are teams that are dedicated to the game. So even though a lot of our practice is against advanced teams, it's not the
Hmm.
worst practice because we know that the teams we're playing are putting in hours to try to get better.
Hmm.
So obviously sometimes it's not the best practice. Like we're not going to be a pro level team from playing advanced players,
Uh-huh.
but getting those scrims in is vital to just improving as a team, especially since we're a new roster. So it's been all right. Obviously, there's like two kind of options in NA. You either use the Scrim Discord to scrim pretty much everybody, or there are Skype groups for MDL plus teams. And basically, our approach right now, since we're new, is get the basics down, establish ourselves as a team, get everything working, and use the Scrim Discord to play kind of everybody that's looking for a scrim.
Hmm.
And then as we get better, we're going to try to just solely focus on playing the better teams. And like when we're able to actually put up a fight against them, and it won't just be a waste of both of our times. When we get to a more advanced level, then we're going to focus on like pushing ourselves to get to the high level of MDL and beyond.
Okay.
So that's
Yeah.
the plan for now.
That sounds good. I know I said last question, but I do have one more for you. Because I kind of hit this with Wolfie in the last interview, but going off of the kind of the back of these new ESEA changes, I kind of want to know your initial thoughts about these changes because I've seen a lot of positivity. I haven't seen that much. I honestly don't know if there's anything really that bad that ESEA's done. It sounds a lot like good stuff. But I want to know your thoughts about the cash cups and the 4 season changes, and of course the removal of the training season.
Yeah, well, I really like the cash cup change. Mostly, to be honest, just to get rid of the money from pugging. I think it's just a stupid incentive
Hmm.
to just like I don't know, like money toward pugging is should never be good
Yeah.
because it's not going to help NA in any way.
Right.
But I don't know. The cash cups we'll have to see because I do think that how cash cups have been lately, although it's good that there's more of them, it can be tough because you know the top teams are always going to farm them.
Right.
But they are great opportunities for practice, even if you're not making money off of them. Just having the ability that every week or every other week, teams are going to all be together to play for these cups, and so you're going to get guaranteed like practice against real teams. And obviously, when you're playing like cups or matches or qualifiers, that's better practice than you'll get in scrims because
Yeah.
teams are actually playing seriously. They're playing because there's something on the line, and you're going to just get better practice out of it. So that's good. I also really like the changes to League, at least for Premier, because the BO3s in regular season is something I've wanted for a long time because
Yeah.
BO1s are just so random. And obviously, like, that actually hurts us because as like a rookie team in MDL or in Premier, just BO1s give us the best chance to beat better teams. But I like the idea of BO3s. We're going to get more practice out of that. And then obviously, it does like add a new element to the game. Just BO1s in general are kind of boring, but
Yeah.
BO3s with the veto process, there's a lot that can happen, and it should just be more entertaining overall. I also really like the groups, and that comes into I think the only real problem with the changes is that the balance of the groups could be weird. Obviously, like in any type of league, every season teams are going to change things up. So it's really hard to evaluate how good teams are going into new seasons. And so
Yeah.
when they're trying to balance the groups, which I'm sure they're going to do, they may end up having groups that just end up being like unfair. And so the only problem I have with that is that it comes into relegation where it's like if you're going to get eliminated for being at the bottom of your group when let's say you could probably beat the bottom of the other group, then it seems like it's just not really that fair. But obviously that's just how it goes sometimes. So that's
Yeah.
fine. And I really just like the playoff structure and the like that promotion season every season is good. It's less relevant to my team in my opinion, but obviously we're going to get to that point eventually
Right.
if we stick together. So it's good that it's already laying the groundwork for that. And I also really like having just 4 seasons back to back. I don't
Hmm.
like off seasons. I understand that for some people they want that time off and they need that time off. But personally, I just want to keep playing and get better practice. And playing more matches means more practice because it's just going to be better stuff. And yeah, more matches, more practice. This whole change is just oriented around more matches. And I do think it's a great thing for NA overall. Like, despite any personal opinions on the change, it just seems to be exactly what we needed, at least for
Yeah.
now. It's like a huge step up for Premier. It just makes the division a lot more legitimate. And just, yeah, it's just, I think it's good all around.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I think one of the favorite things that you kind of touched on there was talking about the best of threes and how it's going to force teams not only to be better in general because You can have, what is it, three map bans in a best of one format. I'm not sure exactly how MDL works, but you can just have three maps that you don't have to play throughout the regular season. You have to worry about practicing, whereas now, if you don't practice a good core of the maps, then you're going to be struggling a little bit, a lot more than previous seasons. So definitely a perfect point. But I appreciate the time, man. Thank you so much. And anything you want to plug before you head out?
Well, I just want to say thank you for your time and thank you for doing this series. I think it's really important that people are doing this type of content, and I appreciate everything you've been doing for the scene in your short time of being like a CS:GO commentator. It's been fun to watch you grow from basically nobody casting advanced, and then you go all the way up to casting MDL, and here you are. So I just want
Yeah,
to shout out you for all of that. And
thank you.
yeah, that's it. I just want everybody out there, whoever's still watching at this point, if you are dedicated to the game and you care about CS, don't give up. Just keep going. It's important that you practice. It's important that you find a team that has the same mindset as you. And if things are hard, you just have to understand that that's how it's supposed to be. That's how you're going to get better. That's how you're going to learn. And you just need to push through that and keep going. And like, obviously, I'm not very far myself. I've only just gotten to MDL. But going back to how I was in open, just playing season after season and looking like nothing's ever going to get better for me, I just stayed committed to what I was confident in myself and improving, and eventually I got out of that. So I just want to say, anybody that actually cares, don't lose motivation. Just keep going, and eventually you'll get to where you want to be if you work hard.
Yeah, perfect, man. Thank you so much for your time, and
Thank you.
appreciate it.